how did this field even evolve that we're starting to worry about so much about called human-computer interaction? In 1980s, basically, human-computer interaction was an area of research and practice. It became very important, but it came out of computer science. What people worried about was how humans interact with computer, and purely from a computer scientist point of view. And over the years, as it became to use personalized computers, it became, and particularly in the medical domain, it became very important that we had to engineer some of the system and update it. So a field called cognitive engineering became very important. Concurrently, while cognitive engineering and this became important, there was another field that was very actively arising called cognitive science. And cognitive science is a basic science that combines areas of methods and theories from computer science, from anthropology, cognitive anthropology, basically, and philosophy, psychology, many of these such domains, and they borrow the best methods that are available to investigate. And that the science of that became very important in application of human-computer interaction, to study that more realistically and scientifically as the emergence of this field. And that arose the issue of software engineering that became important as a field, and human factors engineering. So what would you say was a human factor engineering, what was the next field that we talk about? And so in historical, basically more importantly, is that, so what is human factors? Human factors is very much a word that's used mostly in North America and probably other parts of the world. Europeans call it more as ergonomics. So we hear a lot about ergonomics, which is very similar to human factors in many ways. So human factors is the science of understanding the properties of human capacity. What can we do as human beings? How much can we remember? How much can we process as we interact with electronic health record system or any of the systems that we understand? When we talk about human factors engineering, it's really the application of what we understand from human factors or ergonomics, an understanding of the design, the development and deployment of such systems and services. Okay? So it really is application of human factors research, of ergonomics research, into the understanding and designing and developing and understanding it. And this is really very much of a science. And this kind of leads to the issue of usability. And it's very important to understand that because and we have lost track of that over the period of time because we don't worry about it as much because we've gone so far away from it in a real world setting. At the same time, you have to understand, we're talking about human factors, you're talking about human beings. We are the ones interacting with these systems in the field. How much we remember, we have limitations of how much we remember. More and more information you put in our systems in front of us, the less we can process, because we can't process all that much. Human beings have limitations of short-term memory. How much can you remember? So what you really need is support. You need support to make sure that we can make a decision at the right point in time so that we have all the information we need and quickly accessible and easily accessible in an accurate way. And that raises another issue. How is this information organized? In our head, information is organized in a particular way. And information is not organized complementarily in a system, you can't access that information. We completely forget. We just put in information in a system thinking that it's okay, we'll learn to do it. We won't learn to do it. If we think differently, if we develop concepts differently, and the system doesn't match that, it doesn't work. There's enough work in psychology for years, even in my research for the last 2 decades, has shown that we organize information very differently. We take very basic concepts, we look at the next level, what we call higher level order concepts, and then it builds into what we call chunks, findings, and diagnostic categories, and there's a particular hierarchy in organization. And if the EMRs and EHRs are developed without consideration of how we organize and access that information, you cannot easily and efficiently access understand that is very important that we know some of that. So understanding what do we know and what are the principles we have learned from it, so we can quickly apply in design. And that is important. One of the things that's coming up very fast in terms of design and new approaches to design is that overcomes some of these limitations is the dashboards. Now, new dashboards that are coming out that summarizes all the information that we need in one glance quickly at us, and that's a really new generation of things that are coming out, better and better. But that doesn't mean we end there. More information we integrate from various sources, more challenges we have. It's not so simple to just put it together. It's how we perceive that information. And not only perceive it, it's how users actually look at it. And we have different users. Dashboards not used by one sort of people. There are multiple people, and nurses and doctors at various levels of expertise look at it. And they have a lot of, so though it overcomes the dependency on short-term memory, it creates additional challenges for us, which really, but the advantage there is it gives you a sense of control. You have everything in front of us. Human beings have a need for a sense of control. We need to have control of it, and it gives you all the information in a summary form. But we need to evaluate. We need to understand that new problems have arose due to that kind of thing. You have to be very concerned about that. And other thing is adding little bits of new software, new things into that already existing thing isn't going to be so simple. People think that you can just add little things to it and it's going to keep on building a bigger system that's going to be easily usable. It doesn't. At some point in time, this additional use of things, additional little things, give rise to something, a big thing that changes completely. It looks something very different to what you started. One of the hospitals, I remember, we had a problem with a medication which is called Lamictal. It was called Lamictal, and it was the doctor had prescribed Lamictal 200 milligrams for a psychiatric patient. It was handwritten, so the physician who came in next time saw that medication and said, mistook the L as 1. So it became Lamictal 1200 milligrams. So, and of course there was a serious adverse event to it. So we had recommended at that time that we really have to move electronic. You really have to create a kind of system, and not only that, eventually create a dashboard with all the summary of information. And they started doing this, and the years went by, and everything was going quite well. But they kept adding new and new bits of information, new drop-down menus, all kinds of things, and they thought it's okay to add new little things. But the thing is, the system change. Adding little things changes dynamically something else. But if you don't continuously evaluate, you don't see it in front of you. And what happened is the drop-down menu became so long, and secondly, we began to put automated, like it recognized the medication by first 3 letters. And some other medication had similar first 3 letters, and it got the wrong medication, and another adverse event. So what it really says is that you can't, there is not one solution at one point in time. You've got to continuously evaluate. Things change very rapidly. The other finding is that the other things that happen with a human being is that another thing that's changing rapidly in the field is decision support system. Decision support, we're going beyond decision support in terms of just providing alerts. It's no longer just giving alerts. We were looking for contextualized guidance. This is another new field that's coming out. And contextualized guidance, which really means that it's presenting relevant, just-in-time information based on patient workflow. You have to understand the workflow. I know you've heard so many times, over and over again the last few days, but you really have to know what workflow means, and that you have to provide that workflow and information based on understanding the patient problem. I think that's going to be another new generation of things that are coming out more and more. And there is a thing called patient-oriented, patient-contextualized approach, which is really becoming very also patient-oriented records that kind of put together with the cooperation together with the restructuring of data and the EMRs. I think that's going to be another big thing that, and the usability of system by people, that's going to be very critical. Number of things that came out yesterday in the practice and science and practice of health information technology. And I want to pick on a couple of them as an important field. Somebody had mentioned yesterday in the session that we need to start building some of these and to improve the usability as well, right from scratch, where we have engineers, clinicians, computer scientists, all work together at one, not at a later stage in time when you develop. It is not a trivial task to put everybody together and get everybody to work together. Now, one of the things is that they don't always share the information. I don't believe you need to all have the same information. The whole idea of having different people is because they have different expertise. But what is it they have to share? They have to have a common goal. They have to have some shared information. They all are out to do one particular thing. Design something that is useful and usable and have margin of safety. And if they work towards one goal, there's a possibility of doing it. We started designing some of this system right from scratch using engineers, and it's quite challenging. But if people know there's a common goal doing, you get a much better chance of doing it. But nobody said it was a simple thing to do. It's always a tricky. How much time do I have? Okay. So these are the kinds of things you have to really think about and worry. And other important thing that came out yesterday is, in a more settled way, which is that when you interact with various technology, handheld things, computer in front of you, paper-based, all kinds of things, how much effort a human being has to put in when you work with systems, EMRs, whatever it may be, computer, a patient order entry system, and how much effort should technology provide for you, which is called the internal resources of human being and the external resources they provide. There has to be a balance. If we have to put in a lot of effort to understand something, then the system is not optimal. And if the system gives you so much support that you don't think even, that completely guides you automatically, then that system is not good either. So you need to have a balance between what system can give you and what you have to put in. And which really means it's kind of distributed resources between you and the external support that you provides, and still you have control. You're the one who's the final decision maker here in a sense. So those kinds of things can be scientifically studied, and they have to have a rapid turnaround between the research and practice. And this is what something that industry has to understand a lot more, is that in particular the health industry, that you really need to study and deployment in the field. Once you put the system in the field, things change very rapidly. And working for years in the field, in the clinical workflow, and how the EMRs change there, it's amazing. Because a dynamic system, we've all recognized that things change. Things are not linear. All the evaluation things that we have currently, majority of them are in linear system, as if they happen in a linear form. Things change very rapidly. We need a rapid assessment of something automated in the field. It's very different. And it's a lot, and also changing in one part of something changes rapidly other parts of it in an unpredictable way. Completely unpredictable way. And you can't just predict based on simple things. And therefore, implementing anything, changing anything in one part, expecting everything to change according to your model is not going to happen. So, we are all interested in just rapidly doing things and developing new software that we can use because it's cool, it's neat to use it. But there's a science part of it. There's an art part of it. You want to design something that looks good, something that's usable, and you want to deploy it first because you don't want to wait forever before it goes outside. At the same time, you have to get some of the basic scientific principles out there that come out of some of this science. And therefore, what it comes down to it, that you have to collaborate. You have to collaborate, and researchers have to understand there's a practical need, and you have to translate that into practice. It took me years to realize. I was a very basic researcher for years, and it took me a long time to realize that unless you translate that into a language that You can talk to people about it. What does it mean to me to have things that are usable? Can I just change it? I don't like this icon here. Can I just change it here? No, you can't do that. You have to be more consistent. People have to be consistent. If there's not consistent changes, you won't like it. The issue is, how can we get people, researchers, to translate it at the level that practitioners can understand, and you can communicate. Computer scientists have to understand that you can't just change things and say, this is how I'm going to do the workflow, this is how the algorithm is going to look like. No, that's not how people do. That's not how people make decisions. So what it is that some understanding of basic, all of these people are absolutely necessary. You get them together in one table, under one panel, and discuss these, the very important issues. Second thing, translate the general principles into application level. Industry has to have a very rapid turnaround of R&D, where they can use some of this academia and get the academia into industry, and industry to be able to talk to academia and say, what do we need here? What do we need from you guys to do? And not to forget the users. Who are the basic users? Public health people, everyday user like myself, physicians, and understand those users. And usability has come a long way from simple just ease of use, fun of use. It's a lot more than that, and I think we have to move forward with that field. So there is a lot of science to it, and you can't bypass it, otherwise it's going to come back to bite us. You have to use science, but you have to communicate. Communication technology is not there. So I apologize for losing my slides, but I hope I was able to communicate at least a few messages, and the messages are simple.